You don't have an event without a great speaker, and we have probably one of the best stories to come out of South Africa today. And Ryan Bacher, thanks so much for coming along.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to tell you our story, and I'll give you a sense of where we are at the moment and some learnings along the way. Has anybody here read a book called The Lean Startup? Okay, if you haven't, I would suggest you read it. It's not the be-all and end-all, but it's got a very interesting idea of how to start a business. And we didn't know, but we were kind of lean startup in the 90s. That was our model. And what happened was I started working for an internet company, the Massmart Group. They invested in our business. So they bought 30% of our business. And one of the reasons why they did that was they wanted to take their sites online. But they sat on our board and they knew that we knew nothing about e-commerce. Nobody knew anything about e-commerce in South Africa. I mean, it was really at the beginning. So we said to them, we know that you know that we don't know about this. So the best way for us to help you is we'll learn for a few months. So we're going to build a site. We don't care what it is. We're going to build an e-commerce site. We're going to sell some stuff. We're going to get that stuff delivered. And then we're going to come to you and we're going to say, we figured this out. There was a floral business in America that was online. So flowers, that's interesting. Also, the Monday was the Monday before Valentine's Day. And we launched a test site called NetFlorist. On a Monday, we came up with an idea. On a Tuesday, we built this weird site. It took about 4 days. And then for the next 4 days, the lead up to Valentine's Day, we did the same revenue that a florist did in a month. In South Africa this year, e-commerce will be 1% of retail. So this year, South African retail is going to be about 800 to 900 billion rand, and e-commerce will be about 8 to 9 billion rand. There's a history of the internet. So from 1998 to 2001, if you had a .com in your name, you were a celebrity. So everybody at that stage wanted to either have an internet business or invest in an internet business or interview somebody that's running an internet business. Internet was everything, and it was called the .com era. From 1998 to 2001, they got huge venture capital and shut down. And the reason why most of those companies shut down was they overspent on marketing. They built something and then they blitzed everything. The idea was that we'll just get customers, loads of them, and we'll work out how to make money from them later. That was the thinking. And what happened in 2001, at the end of 2001, there was a Swedish company called Boo.com. And Boo.com were founded by a Swedish model and her husband. They founded a fashion retailer. And they got, I think, £300 million in venture capital. And their website never launched. It never, ever went live. And when they went for the 4th round of funding, the original angel investors said, what on earth is going on here? There's £300 million of funding, and this thing isn't even live. What have you sold us here? And literally in weeks, .com became .bomb. The market around the world crashed because venture capitalists panicked. They suddenly thought, we've been sold this e-commerce thing, and everybody started coming out and saying, well, we've invested in this company, no profits. We've invested in this company, no revenue, let alone profits. And the market collapsed, it crashed. And the reason why we didn't have that was because of this. So what we did is, in around 2000, we didn't have cash and we needed customers. And I'd been to a conference in America and I'd seen this concept of affiliate marketing. And so what we did is we turned a whole lot of brands into online florists. There was a big downside to the strategy, and we were so new and fresh in the retail game, we didn't understand it. Can anybody get a sense of what was bad about this? Because there is something fundamentally bad. Our brand, we lost the brand. And we didn't understand that in retail, that's actually all you are. We were just trying to make this fun thing, flowers online work. We didn't understand that. So it took us a few years once we realized that to undo all of these relationships. We still have a lot of them in place, but they're with our brand. So then in about 2004 or 5, we had this kind of big realization, because up until then, if you were selling anything online, you were an e-tailer or you were in e-commerce. But actually that's nonsense. If you're selling something online, you're a retailer. The fact that we choose the internet as our primary medium is kind of in some ways neither here nor there. The problem with that realization was we knew nothing about retail. So we started to scale up in understanding what it means to be a retailer. And then also we started to understand that actually we'd entered a market that was quite small. So then we had to do something different, and so we went into gifting. We did that so that we could get access to a bigger market. and then warehousing. So warehousing was a very complicated decision for us. And in fact, in 2000, Jeff Bezos at Amazon built his first warehouse. Up until then, the whole dream of e-commerce was you'd never touch the product. He realized that actually that component for a long time in his business was going to be the most important part of his business. And he couldn't outsource it. He was absolutely right that without control of that process, customer service was going to be so bad that nobody was going to come back and order again. And in 2007, we made a very expensive decision, but it was the right decision for us, is we brought everything in-house. I thought that I'd explain some of the data that's important in our business, because we are quite a data-driven business, and the internet allows you to do that. It's where it is more advanced than physical retail. The data is quite revolutionary. So this is our Uber stat. And for any e-commerce company, this is kind of the Uber stat. Actually, Uber's not a good word. I'm not talking about this is our biggest stat. Our conversion rate means that from every person who walks into our store, how many people buy? So out of all the people that come to our website, 14% buy. So in general e-commerce terms, that's very high. The other stat is a bounce rate. So bounce rate is the worrying stat for all the e-commerce companies. So bounce rate is somebody comes to a page on our site, let's say the home page, and they leave. So that's a big problem for all e-commerce companies, because we want to attract the right traffic to our site. And if somebody came to our site and left, either they weren't the right traffic or they hated what our homepage looked like. That's even more problematic. So 31% of our customers walk in and just walk out. They don't click on a single thing. Has anybody heard of A/B testing? It's very common in our industry, but it's new in other markets. Okay, so A/B testing is like this. So if I say to Terence, okay, I got a bottle for you and a bottle for you. You don't know this, but these are different. This is still and this is sparkling. But you don't know that they're different. And I want to see if you two prefer still or sparkling. So I'll do that to everybody. And at the end of the night, I'll measure who's drunk their still and who's drunk their sparkling. And then I'll know that in this audience, actually this audience prefers still to sparkling or sparkling to still. But you don't know that you're getting different stuff. You have no idea. It's called an A/B test, and it basically is a very easy way to understand if somebody prefers this or somebody prefers that, but on a statistically accurate level. Generally, you need 250 people. That's what researchers say. If you've got 250 people sampling something, you can trust the data that comes back. There's a tool called Google Analytics. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It's very common in the e-commerce world. Inside Google Analytics, on the toolbar on the left-hand side, there's something called experiments. And almost everything we price on our site goes through this. Businesses of the future have to combine exploiting and exploring. You have to keep being better and better and better at what your core is, and you also have to keep looking outside of your core. And so we think about that a lot at NetFlorist, about what is our core and what do we do and how do we expand that. Until you go to the marketplace, you actually no idea, and that's the concept of lean startup. The whole lean startup, they've got this thing called minimum viable product, is you can spend as much time as you want in your boardroom trying to think customers will do this. You actually have no idea. And research groups are even worse. You can ask people as many times as you want, if we build this, will you use it? Yes. But until you build it, and until they use it, you actually never know. So the only way for us to know is to build the thing inexpensively, and then so we're hacking it. We're hacking it, and if people use it, then we'll build it properly, and if they don't, we'll try the next thing. We use that a lot.
When you in your analytics, do you look at the difference between your web, mobi, tablet kind of orders, and are you seeing the rise of the mobile coming, or is it still predominantly web?
Mobi should fundamentally be a different experience. You've got to work out in your business, what is the thing about mobility, about a smartphone in somebody's hand that will make the experience with whatever you're doing revolutionary. We haven't done it. We haven't worked that out yet. We're trying, but we haven't worked it out.
I was wondering if you could spend a second telling us how difficult it is finding talented developers to build all of this cool stuff you guys imagine.
So my short answer is we outsource to India. So I'll tell you why we do that. We don't do that because there isn't talent in South Africa. The problem is retaining talent. In South Africa, our experience has been as soon as we found a great developer, Standard Bank offered him double the salary and he left. Because good developers are not simple and we couldn't retain those skills.
NetFlorist as a disruptor killed like 800 florists.
Yeah.
How would you react to a criticism like that?
The floral proposition with the new way the world works was a broken proposition. It was a broken proposition. Now, what they should have done, frankly, is some of those florists should have done what we did, because they would have been leagues ahead. In fact, what should have happened is interflorists should have done what we did, but they were fast asleep. They should have done this. So it's not really the right answer to say somebody was going to do it, we did it. I think a better answer is that their model was broken. It was broken for many reasons, which I haven't gone into, but just on an aside, when you ordered from a florist in Sandton and you delivered in Cape Town, I can assure you, you never got what you ordered, ever. The internet and the new way that the world works has kind of fixed that in a way, but there is a consequence. I don't know what to say about it.
If you look at the South African landscape, considering the appetite of investors, how do you, or what do you see, that boding or in store for the future of tech in South Africa?
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great for e-tailers. Other tech, there's quite a bit of funding. B2B applications, there's quite a bit of funding involved.
Yeah.
Pure tech, like an enabler for a company, there's quite a bit of funding. For e-tailers, I was part of a talk about 3 years ago at an R&B function, and I was on a panel, and next to me was the guy's the MD of Groupon, but he's also the MD of an investment company that owns a few, and the other guy was a company called Silvertree Investments, and they've invested in a few businesses. And it was astounding. It was an hour's discussion on e-tailing, and these guys were so bearish. These were entrepreneurs in the room. So they were all asking about VC, etc., and they were saying, we will never fund you. Basically what they said. They're saying, unless you've got a track record, you've got revenues, you've got a proven co-win, we're not coming anywhere near you. I think the difference here with overseas, and I don't know what to do. Well, there's nothing for me to do. I'm not in that market, but I don't know what can be done about it. Is the venture capitalists overseas? There's a guy who's actually a cousin of mine. His name's David Frankel, and he's invested in. He was an Uber angel investor. Many others. They're investing in hundreds of startups. So there they can play the 80-20 rule. So some will fail, some will succeed. The succeeds hopefully will be their 10x, whatever they call it, and overall the fund will do well. In South Africa, there's not much going on in that market. So if you invest, it's not as though you've got another 20 investments covering that investment. That investment might be your investment, and if it goes belly up, you lose your money. So there isn't enough, and people are a bit scared. So I don't know. If I was a startup e-tailer, frankly, I'd need funding from relatives. I don't know where I'd get that funding. I don't know the answer to that.
I think it touches to that point as well. Is it not the case that the issues around intellectual property and transferring that outside of the country, if you get acquired, is significantly harder compared to a US or UK startup selling their IP, whatever the case?
The truth is, I don't think IP is worth much on the net. That's my truth. In other words, I'll bet you, there are 100 people sitting around the world that are going, we had the Uber idea. Seth Godin, he said that there's no shortage of good ideas in the world. It's the will to implement them.
Ryan, thanks so much. This is